Welcome everybody as you guys are coming into our Bosses in Action episode number 83. Today is Fearless Follow-Up, and I'm going to be your host, Trenton Bodine. Unfortunately, Tristan, who's usually with us, is out sick with COVID today, but that's okay. Today we're going to explore the art of effective and authentic follow-up here in real estate. And it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest, Sarah Delancic. Did I say that correctly?
You're very close. Yeah, Delancic. Yeah.
Delancic, perfect. And she's the owner of the Inside Sales Agency, and she's also a realtor with EXP Realty as well. Sarah, if you don't mind, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I used to run an ISA team for selling real estate coaching. And we did this in an office. And so I kind of ran the team in the office. And then we also had some outside, virtual team members. And I found a ton of joy in it. And I was very competitive. And we had like our numbers on the board. And I always knew where I stood because whoever had the most appointments at the end of the day would get, the most opportunity to make the commission. And so I was very competitive, always wanted to be at the top of the leaderboard. Found myself leading the team. And then I was like, pretty much looking at my life. And I'm like, well, real estate agents make a lot of money. So let me look into that. And so I got my license and I became an assistant and that was fine. But I didn't find as much joy in selling real estate. But I was really, really good at helping other people connect. And I noticed that I would attend a lot of webinars like Agent Power Huddle and things like that. And I would realize that the agents didn't know what to say when they were making calls. They didn't know how often to call. They didn't know, what to text, if they should text, if they should, how to do any of it. So I took a bunch of classes on it and I realized we were being taught the same thing over and over for 20 plus years, just incessantly call, aggressively follow up, be very vague, don't leave voicemails. And for me, that was just not my style whatsoever. My style is very authentic, value driven, giving lots and lots of value and connecting with people on a relational level instead of just trying to get a sale. So that's kind of my background.
Oh, that's awesome. Those are some great insights there for us. To kind of get started here, how do you tailor your follow-up strategy to different types of clients?
Well, that's a great question. So every market is different and we use video at a very high level, video marketing, community-based marketing. So learning about your market, your niche, what's going on in Phoenix, Arizona is not the same thing that's going on in Seattle, Washington. And and all over the country. So you have to really tailor it to the area. You have to understand the personality style of the agents that you work with, because if my personality is so much different from the agent that I'm calling for and they're vibing with me, that might be different for the agent. So you have to really think about and get to know every area, every market, what's going on, what are the, all the different moves that are happening. Are there more texting people? Is it older money, second housing area, where you should probably call earlier in the morning and not send text with emojis, or maybe not send text that much at all? Or is it more of a younger vibe where people, first time home buyers, that you need to, catch their attention, grab their attention, and you're going to do that more through text and more with videos, like YouTube content that has lots of value in it.
Very interesting. I like hearing how you kind of differentiate some of those things. Now, a common challenge that I've noticed here in real estate is knowing how often to follow up. And I know you kind of mentioned that right there, but what's your approach to determining the right frequency for client follow-ups?
So that's really huge. So I want to just backtrack a little bit, because some people are like, well, I've been doing it for 20 years the same way and it's working just fine. Yes, it works. I'm not knocking that, but I split tested. So I actually did it the very aggressive way. I followed a certain ISA playbook that I purchased, and I followed that, and I did it that way. And I did not have as much success with the way that I did it. And that way was 3 times a day, bulldog dial. There was a lot. Okay. It was a lot. So normally I'm calling warm internet leads. And if you think about yourself, like if you put yourself in your client's shoes and you're like, okay, I'm scrolling on my Facebook and oh yeah, click here, get your home's value and find out what it's worth. Sure, I'll do that. Enter your address, get the value, right? That's what they're thinking. So it gives their phone number and their address and everything. They're not thinking that anybody's going to call them. Then they immediately they get an AI text usually that's like, thanks. And then I call them pretty soon after that, right? Like as soon as possible, but not like too aggressively. And so like, then they're like, whoa, what's happening? Now the people that really want to sell are very happy to talk to me. But normally they're a little wigged out. So you have to handle it a different way. So I call, usually as soon as I possibly can for those warm internet leads. Then I call a couple days later, like 3 days later. Then I call 1 week later, then 2 weeks later, then 3 weeks later, and then every 4 weeks until they pick up the phone. And I have been calling the same people for 2+ years since I started this business now. And for one of my agents, she's had 55 closings on 400 leads. So it's pretty insane how it can still work. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk a little bit about that. So you kind of mentioned, of 3-4 phone calls in that first week, and then you branch off to about 2, and then it starts to go weekly. Now, have you noticed that, obviously you're showing results of how phone calls, the less of phone calls there. Is there a reason why you're approaching the texting a little bit more?
Yes.
A little
Absolutely.
bit higher phone calls?
So I work with clients that...
Going through there real quick. Sorry to interrupt. Can you recap that timeline to call again, please? And then let's transition into, that was a question for Luis, to recap how you did that. And then let's dive into and what you look like for the texting part of that as well.
Okay, if I forget, remind me. Okay, so the recap is as soon as possible. So as soon as possible, usually it's within 24 business hours, I will call the lead. And then I text them. Every time I say I call, I also send a text. So let's just be clear on that. Then 3 days later, then 1 week later, then 2 weeks later, then 3 weeks later, and then every 4 weeks until they pick up the phone. Honestly, if you're just consistent with calling, no matter what, you're going to have success. Okay. So 10% of people pick up the phone. That's the reality, right? Or less. Depending on, I've kind of got it down to a science. I know what markets I call earlier in the day, what markets I call later in the day, and things like that. So, like Friday afternoon in Las Vegas is hopping. I know that I call Las Vegas Friday afternoon. They don't really like to pick up on Monday morning or pretty much any other day. But so that's kind of how I do that. But so with that, you have to have a very solid text, text, not like, well, I say it's a template, but at the same time, I never send the same text twice. And on the very first voicemail, I say, hi, Trenton, this is Sarah with the Linnea Carver Home Team here in Seattle. I saw you were checking out something on Facebook the other day. I wanted to get your home's value. I was hoping we could chat about that really quick. Can you please give me a call back? Right? So that's like the first one. I say what company, my name, where I'm calling from, blah, blah, blah. Then the next one, and then I send a text and I send something of value. So I actually should show you this, what my text templates look like. Now, this is all also, I did a course because not every agent could afford an ISA. So I don't know if I'm allowed to promote that. So hit me up on social if you can. All right, let me see if I can pull this up really quick and share it with you guys.
And you're pulling that up, one thing that I heard in there was that you were talking about calling and texting at the specific right time of the day and things that you're noticing from, these specific days you don't want to call because they're not going to answer or they're too focused on something else. Are you keeping track of when that is so that way this market is this and this demographic is this?
I do. I try to call at different times of day until I can kind of nail it down. But calling, period, is better than sitting there saying, oh, I missed my window today, so I'm not going to call at all, right? So don't sit there and go, well, Sarah said I should only call on Friday, so now I don't have time to call on Friday, so I'm not going to do it. Don't do that. You have to experiment. And besides that, like I said, it's more about these text messages that I'm using with the YouTube content than anything else. So this is really where it's at. And if I can give you an example of it, let me think of one that I have, like a downsizer ad. I changed the emojis based on, okay, this looks really old, and just bear with me, but it's not. So this is I changed the emojis based on the area. So this person's in California. I would, if they were up north in Seattle, I would send more of like falling leaves, because right now that's what's happening here in Seattle. But the sun is usually shining in Southern California, so that's kind of where he is at. So in this one, I say, thanks for reaching out about the list of one level homes on Facebook. I see great properties available. Did you get the list okay in your email? And then I say, hey, there's this video. It's buyers. This one tip could save you thousands. And then I have a link to it. So this link is how you establish trust. This video is literally the secret sauce of everything I do. Because even if they don't click on it, it pops up with a preview, with a thumbnail preview. And it shows, my client, John and Claire Hickey, their faces on it. And it has value because now they're the experts on, how buyers can save thousands of dollars in La Cañada. So, so that's kind of an example of one. If somebody wants to type in the chat, like, a specific, I have all kinds of these. I do use a lot of, let me rewind. I don't really like expires or FSBOs or things like that, because you're getting a whole lot more of the bad numbers and wrong numbers and things like that. And you have to approach it a little differently. So most of my clients are doing online warm internet leads. And like I mentioned earlier, so this is another one. They requested a list of waterfront homes for sale in Maricopa County. And then I have, because Arizona is kind of like a second place and everybody's kind of migrating there. So another thing is, as agents, we all need to do our research on what's happening, right? Like, where are people moving in and out of? Like, where are they all migrating? Why are they doing that? Is it because of taxes? Is it because of lower, property or like lower home prices or something like that? So a lot of people were moving out of Washington State into Arizona because they wanted, first of all, sunshine. Second of all, it was cheaper. So, so I know that. And so I give this out without them asking. So it's some kind of value on that regardless. So hopefully that kind of clears.
Excellent. Yeah. So 3 things I noticed there that you did. One, the adjustment of the emojis based on their location. I didn't really do that. And I think that is a great way of personalizing that connection and making it show that, you're resonating with that market. Another one was that you are sending a link that has an image of the people that are talking on it. Again, building that trust and credibility right there to where they also know where they're going to and who's about to talk to them. And
Exactly.
we're kind of doing that as well as using BombBomb videos, because that also shows that preview of who's about to be talking. It gives a little bit of a 2-second GIF on that. And then the third one that I noticed was that you're asking them, did you get that in your email? And so that almost gives them a forced yes or no answer, to where if it is yes, then that follow-up is going to change how you're going to speak. And if it's no, that's going to also change that conversation. So I'm curious, what do you say when they respond back with that? Because I'm assuming it's probably typically yes or no.
When they say yes, they usually add something on, yes, but it's out of my price range, or yes, but this or that. So the next thing I want to know before I go down a rabbit hole is, awesome, do you have an agent helping you out with that so that you can find what you're looking for? Because I don't want to sit here and like break laws. First of all, Washington State has really strict laws on, I just renewed my license, so I it's all in my head. But yeah, so you don't want to do that. And then second, I don't want to get all involved in this and then find out, oh, by the way, I already have an agent. And so they're just, because a lot of times buyers will not tell you they have an agent if you don't ask them straight up, because they think they're going to get more help finding different homes, which we know isn't really the case. Everything's MLS, unless it's off MLS or whatever. So, but yeah, that's kind of how I do that. If they say no, then I say, oh, I'm so sorry about that. That's why we follow up, actually, because sometimes it goes to spam. but is this the correct email for you? And then I paste their email in there and ask them that. So, yeah, that's how I am.
Great points there. That's very helpful. So I want to talk a little bit about technology here. And how do you use technology to enhance your follow-up process? We kind of just were shown your texting prompts that you had there.
Yeah.
You just mentioned that you're sending YouTube links. What else are you doing that's trying to enhance that follow-up process?
Well, it's really good for my clients, their YouTube. So YouTube it's not threatening. Like if you get a YouTube link on your cell phone, because it pops up with a preview usually when you have an iPhone, then it's not threatening to click it. You can click it right there on your iPhone and you can see, you can watch it right there, and it's not going to drag you into some weird website that you don't know about. So my clients build their YouTube channel, which gives them a community based marketing plan for kind of like establishing themselves, not kind of, but actually establishing themselves as the go-to people in these markets about real estate. And eventually they grow because they end up posting more videos and they end up doing more things, and they grow into something bigger. So that one text that you guys saw, I have a whole flow chart. So it goes like, this is the first text you send. The second one would be like, did any properties catch your eye? If they don't respond, because like sometimes they just don't respond. But I don't get told stop nearly as much as I did when I was just calling, bulldog dialing, hang up. Hey, I tried to reach you. Where do we go from here? What do you want to do? Like, are you still serious about this? Like, those are like the aggressive style, kind of like just not my style texts that I won't send. The texts that I do send are, hey, I saw you were looking to get your home's value. Want to know how you can keep your home in the best shape? Here's a video on how to do that. Want to know how you can get the most money for your home? Here's a video. So like I will always send a video with it that relates to whatever they were looking for in the area that they were looking.
Excellent. I mean, very smart to do, especially because you can have that personal, feel right there. Could you share some tips here with us on building rapport with clients during follow-up interactions?
Yes. Okay. So don't feel like you have to be something you're not. On video, in person, like you are who you are, and people are attracted to work with you based on who you are. So don't say hello. If I came on here and I was like, hi everyone, I'm Sarah Delancey. Thank you so much for joining me today on this awesome podcast. Like that's just so not me, right? Like you can just tell in my voice that I'm putting on a front, and that's what I see a lot of agents do when they start making calls because they're not comfortable on the phone very much. So one thing that you can do, practice what you're going to say. My text templates are pretty much verbatim what I say in the first call. Also, when somebody tells you not to do something, then you start to focus on it and you're more likely to do it. So when I used to train, we would always say, don't say or are you interested in that? We would say something like, could you benefit? Could you benefit from a coaching call, right? So when you tell them not to, though, now all of a sudden they would always say, are you interested in that? Are you interested in that? So they focus on it, right? It's a psychology thing. And instead, just when you hear somebody else telling you not to do something or to do something a certain way, just know you be yourself and you'll be okay. Like people aren't going to beat you up about making calls. Yes, people hang up on you. I listened to a call. A woman fell asleep on one of my ISAs today. I could not believe it. She was legit snoring. I think she answered the phone in her sleep. She said hello. He started talking and she legit fell asleep. Things happen. Strange things happen. It has nothing to do with you. Just be honest. Be yourself. And don't try to put on a front. And you will find success if you're consistent and do that.
Well, that falling asleep there kind of leads to my next question here. What is your approach when a client responds negatively to a follow-up?
You know what? That's the funny thing is like, I could show you because I'd be like, great, thanks, geez, have a great day. Like it happens. Fortunately, I can block them the same way that they can block me. So I have people who will send me, one letter every 2 seconds to try to annoy me or something, but I have the ability to block them the same way. I'm not sure if Follow Up Boss or anything like that does have that, but with the one that I'm showing. Sorry, it wasn't Follow Boss, but I do use Follow Boss too. But yeah, so when somebody's responds negatively, my thought process is, well, first of all, it has nothing to do with me. Second of all, I wish them well in my head and I go about my business because I know that usually when something like really negative happens, you're going to have something really positive come out of it too.
Oh, great
I
viewpoint
do
there.
it.
We kind of have the same experience there is where if, you know, that's probably someone that you're not going to want to work with, especially if they
Yeah,
are providing that type of experience.
exactly. So that comes to like, okay, Jeremy asked, how do you customarily overcome common objections? I've always been someone that is like, oh, like I don't have all of the objection handling skills, right? I am just being myself, and that's what works. I genuinely care about a buyer or seller finding a right home or selling their home for, you know what I mean? So I'm not trying to manipulate anyone into buying or selling. And I find that when you do that, then you end up regretting it because now they might not be happy that they're in the situation, or you're just going to have so much more could go wrong. So while I find it's good to handle objections in a way that is respectful and everything, it's not like my strong suit, and I can't sit here and go, okay, this is what you say when they say this. The best one that I can tell you, and the one that I actually use on a regular basis, is when they say they're just looking. I say, that's awesome. I get it. Most people that are clicking on, Facebook ads or whatever are just looking and they aren't quite ready. But since you already gave us your email, would it be helpful if we sent you monthly market update emails to just keep you in the loop with what's happening in your market? Now they all almost always say yes. I only had one person say no to that. And now they've given me permission to check back in a month or two and say, hey, I just want to make sure you got that email, see what you thought of it. And so that's kind of where I go with that. And the more you can stay top of mind and provide value and really care about people and not try to bully them or manipulate them into something that they don't want to do in the first place, then that's my strategy. So like I'm a completely different type of follow-up. That's why I call this fearless follow-up. It's not aggressive follow-up. It's not salesy follow-up. It is just authentic. Like be yourself. You are who you are. People want to work with you for exactly who you are. So don't try to be somebody you're not, and just go out there and do it, because if you're consistent, you'll get it.
Excellent. Great question there, Jeremy. So apart from calls and emails and texts, one thing, I guess two things that we're using right now are creating blog articles for our website. So we are building out blog articles based off of, 30 to 40 different things that you'd want to know about our specific cities. And so we're using those different smart plans to be sent out so that, obviously to re-engage people. We're also sending out handwritten letters a lot of times and just ways to personalize it. I'm curious, what other methods are you using for follow-ups?
So most of mine is really focused, like I said, on the calls and the texts. And I point my clients in the direction of things like Follow Boss, things like other resources like thanks.io or something like that, like you were just talking about, handwriting stuff. So there's a bunch of different stuff out there that I can point them in the direction of, but I think it has to resonate with them, what they want to put out there. So like my whole thing is really about text, but as a company, as the inside sales agency, I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing blog posts. I'm trying to get agents comfortable with video and finding out how to use it, because it can be very intimidating at first, but it's actually almost free. Like you're all on Zoom right now. Guess what? Zoom can record videos, and it also can touch up your appearance if you don't have very nice skin or something like that, or you don't want to put on makeup. So you can make pretty good videos. I did have somebody complain about my camera not being 1080p, which I will probably upgrade now on my YouTube channel recently. But yeah, I do the same thing. I'm trying to kind of grow the SEO with all of that too on my website and things like that.
Excellent. Well, shifting gears just a little bit, can you share a memorable experience where a unique follow-up approach led to a successful client relationship?
It's all of my fault. It's literally what I do. No, but, okay, so I will go back to my real estate coaching days. I had somebody tell me, and we were like getting to this point where he was about to buy real estate coaching. And I was just like, very honest with him about everything. And then all of a sudden, you know what, he was not having it. All of a sudden he was like, don't ever call me again, don't blah, 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 whatever. And I put a task out for 6 months later to not call him. I said, just check and see just check. If he hasn't called you, then don't bother. The day before that task popped up, he called me back and he signed up for coaching. And so what I think that tells you is that, number one, if you aren't pushing people into things they don't want to do, if you are being authentic, if you care about the person, like you can't care about someone and also, try to take their money or like, you know what I mean? Like if you have their best interests at heart, which we all should as realtors, as real estate agents, right? Then you obviously are going to be able to show that person that you care and build rapport with them. So, consistency is key and just caring about people is key. And I think that that's kind of been my experience. But honestly, my whole approach, and that's why I'm out here teaching it and why I'm glad you guys have me on here, because we've been taught the same thing for 20 plus years about how to get on the phone with people. Well, that was pre-COVID. That was when people, maybe even didn't have caller ID. I don't know. We've had it for a while. But, it was like before you ring my doorbell and I have a camera and I'm going to talk to you through my phone instead of go answer the door, right? Like it's a very different style we're in, and agents are having trouble with this market. But I made 694 calls last week. I had 18 wins, which include property alerts, CMAs, market updates, but 13 of them were appointments, including 2 were in person. So I'm still doing it. It's the middle of November. It's a crazy market with 7% interest rates, and I'm still doing it. So I encourage you, be positive and stick with it.
Well, very inspiring, Sarah. Love that answer. If anybody in the audience does have a question that they would like Sarah to answer, please drop it in the chat real quick before we head out. But last question for me is, you were kind of mentioning there, about your experience, how kind of the market's changing. How are you adapting your follow-up strategies with the changing real estate market, especially in the last 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think I'm still consistently sending YouTube videos and things like that. I ask my clients to make videos about what's happening. So we need to educate people more than we need to bully them into anything or try to manipulate them, right? So when you are educated, you have all the facts and you can make an informed decision. So I think that what I've done is really help my clients see the full picture of how video can help them so that they can give the whole picture to their prospective buyers or sellers and show them that this isn't really that scary, because people still need to buy or sell. Like there are people in the military that need to move. There are people getting divorced that need to move, relocating for all kinds of different things. And so, there's still plenty of opportunity out there. You just have to be the right person to consistently follow up and give them all of the value. Always give value. Don't expect anything. I don't ever expect appointments. I don't ever go into it and like, this is gonna, I'm gonna handle 3 objections before I hang up the phone or something. I don't do any of that. I just talk to them. If they say no, you know what? No problem. Have a great day. On to the next one.
I love that. It's providing value and being able to educate those that need that. Well, last question here from Jeff from the audience before we wrap this up. How many hours a day / week do you make calls and texts? Is it always a call and text or sometimes just a text?
Great question. So I pretty much do this all day long. This is my business, and I train others to do it and coach others to do it too. So it's about 8 to 5 kind of thing, but I also run a business. So I would say I probably make 6 hours of calls. 6 hours of calls, I can make about 120 to 130 calls, maybe 140. And then, but if you have bad numbers, it's a lot faster, because I can make bad numbers are like 1 a minute kind of thing. It's really fast. And I always call and text unless I'm in a conversation back and forth and I'm like, hey, did you get that? Did we get this fixed for you? Or did you get the email or something like that? But yes, the call is really important because the text doesn't always, like, people ignore text, but if you're getting a call and then a text right after it, it actually comes, it's triggering. Like, I'm a psychology major, so now you're setting up, Pavlov's dog, right? Like, ring the bell, get the treat, right? So that's kind of how it's going. Weird,
Awesome.
weird direction to take that. But yes, that's how it works.
Excellent. Well, appreciate you, Sarah, for joining us. If you want to drop in the chat your information and how they can get a hold of you, definitely feel free to do that. And I want to thank you all for attending as well. This has been a great conversation about how to manage follow-up and how to not do it in a super salesy ways either. So awesome. She just dropped in her website there and where you can find her on Facebook. Feel free to reach out to her with any questions you might have. And again, thank you, Sarah, for joining us.
Thank you so much. This was great. I think that was really helpful, and I think they covered a lot. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Well, have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much. Bye.